What's going on, man?
What's up, bro?
Welcome back. We got a great episode today. We're going to bring on Coach Todd Smith, Hun School, where he has really turned around that program and made him into a national power. Really, um, no doubt, 100% Northeast power, and really
Definitely.
kind of starting to take the next steps to become a national power. Puts out Division I recruits left and right. And is really especially a guy with a background with developing those offensive linemen. He's had so many of those guys go on as well. So without further ado, let's bring on Coach Smith. What's going on, Coach?
What's going on? How are you?
How you doing, Coach? Appreciate you
Good.
taking the time. Know it's busy season with camp and everything, so
No,
appreciate
anytime.
you stepping away.
No problem.
Coach, I touched on your background. Why don't you go a little bit depth? Obviously, if you want as well, playing background too, but
Sure.
and how you kind of got to where you're at today.
Yeah, I grew up in New Jersey, Central Jersey. Went to Hunterdon Central High School. Played for Jim Merritt, and then from there I went to the College of New Jersey. Played for Eric Hamilton.
Legend.
Legend. Two legends right there. And
Absolutely.
then the year I graduated, the year after I graduated, I actually went back and I coached at the College of New Jersey. I played offensive line there. I was a starter for 3 years, and then when I coached, I focused on the running backs and really wanted to focus in on a different position group just to really expand my knowledge base of the game and truly
Right.
try to understand things from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I got away from football for a little bit. And then I popped back up 3 years later, and I became the head coach at West Windsor, Plainsboro South High School for 8 years. Had a good run there, made the playoffs 7 out of the 8 years, got to the state final once. And then I took a break from head coaching. And after my 8th year at West Windsor, became the offensive coordinator at Hopewell Valley for 1 year. That was the year we won the state championship at Hopewell. And then the year after that, I became the head coach at Hunt, and I've been there ever since. So getting ready to start year 11.
Year 11 it is.
I know
now.
it's crazy, right? Like you don't think it's like in a blink, right? And like year 11, here you go.
Year 11. So you know what? It might be year 12, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think literally after like 3, it just starts to blend, and it's like once you get that first class through, and then it's like all of a sudden you're just like, okay, well, where am I? Okay, doesn't matter. It's all the same stuff.
All the same.
Well, you've had like in the development of the program, like a steady every year like surge of better and better players coming in and better teams. And it's been almost like surgical. And I don't know if it's on purpose or it's just that kind of it shook out. But it went from you had a few guys that were Division I athletes, and you had a good program, and you guys were starting to dominate your conference, to now where you're reaching out and playing opponents from all over the place, and continue to take on more and more a competitive burden. Talk about that and kind of how your whole approach in building Hun was.
I mean, I think our approach was really always just being honest with parents, honest with kids from the get-go. Really looking for kids that were going to be hard workers. Obviously, if they had some intangibles, that was great. But, listen, Hun is an independent school. It's a boarding school. It's a day school. There's a significant cost with it. So, I mean, this is a unique thing, and it's unique to New Jersey because there's so many schools like Hun.
Yeah.
And I think over the years we have done a great job of showing how we can develop kids from the ground up. One of the things I'm really proud of is every kid that we've had here that has gone on to play college football. Almost every kid, there's the exception of 2, did not have offers before they got here, and everything they earned was, coming here, working hard, establishing a new work ethic, maybe even switching positions. We've done a great job transitioning kids from one position to another. And to make them more recruitable and really just try to unlock their full potential as a football player. But it's also been establishing a great coaching staff. We do have a bunch of great coaches on the staff that also develop kids. So as the head coach here, I trust everybody on the staff to really work just as hard as I do and develop the kids. Coach Bob Ziegler is a great defensive mind. He does a great job on the defensive side of the ball. I don't even bother with that part of the game. And obviously we have Tony Rassiopi with us, who, having a quarterback coach on your team, I think that's something that goes by the way with a lot of high school programs. It's like, the technical aspect of quarterback play.
Yep.
Which I can draw plays up all day, but I'm not telling a kid how to pronate his shoulder or turn his feet or, how to set things up. And he just does a great job with that, of working with our kids to, again, get them to throw the ball at the right velocity, the right speed, the right angle, making sure nothing sails, because their footwork is always complete from the bottom up. So, we've just been doing that year after year. I think that's caught the eye of a lot of people. And, we keep getting some kids, and we have a great influx of younger brothers of kids that we've had too. We've had like real family buy-in, which is great. And, when you get the younger brothers, sometimes the gene pool is the same. So we get some really good ones. So we've had the Wafel brothers and we have the Enlow brothers. They've been a really, really great families that have really impacted our program. And, so it's just been rolling, and, we kind of slow things down. We don't want to look too far ahead, and we just take it one game at a time, one season a year, and then we just focus on what we have to do. The big part of it, though, I think what sets us apart from a lot of other programs is, and I say this to families all the time, it's not about wins and losses at the Hun School. Like we could go win 8 games, we can win no games. The reason why kids are coming here is because they want to get developed. They want to become better football players. They want to go on to play at college. They want to surround themselves with like-minded kids. And we've done a great job of assembling those kids that are great students, great athletes, and they want to be great at the next level. And that pushes everybody here. But like when we practice, we coach them. We coach them up. We get on them, and we look at things we get really nitty gritty with it. And we're very specific, very detail oriented, and practice is fast and it's intense. And we try to model it just as similar as it would be when they go to college. And we want them to get ready, because the goal is for them to not just go to college and get a great education and play football, but we want them to impact the team they're going to play. We want them to get on the field and play. We want to help guide them through that process, and easy all the time. But we've done a great job of it. And the small numbers help, right? When you carry about 45 to 50 kids on the roster, you can really dedicate a lot of time to everybody, and nobody slips through the cracks.
Right. Right. And I think with that, like, too, those guys then realize, like, I'm not just a number. Like, what's going on with each individual kid. They feel like they're getting that one-on-one coaching. Look at your ratio from certain positions with those coaches, and how, like you said, you can really hone in on those skills that they're going to need, to get to that next level. And now you just continue to create that monster.
Yeah.
What
about from a scheduling standpoint, right? So
that's gotta be difficult.
You're
Great
probably in your conference, right? In particular, you're probably an outlier in that you guys have really, really had a lot of talented players, and you probably have amazing administrative support, so you kind of are able to continue to push forward in that direction. What is the difference between what you guys look to do scheduling and competition wise versus a lot of other people, in your conference? Or do you even look at what the other guys are doing or now?
I mean, I think like in our world, in the prep school world, we've had, we thought we locked into something that was pretty good. So we have those schools in New Jersey, the Maple League schools. Pennington just joined. You have Petty, Lawrenceville, Blair. And then in our conference, we used to have Mercersburg, and we still have the Hill School. Mercersburg no longer has 11-man football. They play 7-man football. We've continued a relationship with Hill, Blair, and Petty. They honor their Maple agreement. Lawrenceville chooses not to. They play everybody in the Maple except us, which is fine. It's their prerogative. At the end of the day, again, we want to have a positive impact on these kids. So we want to find games. It is difficult to find games. It's
Definitely
the hard thing. And we had a foothold in New England. We had a 2-year schedule where we were playing schools like the Brunswick School, Suffield Academy. We had Cheshire Academy, schools that were built like us. And unfortunately, after the 2-year initial agreement, that went to the wayside. We've tried to make we tried to merge conferences with the Interac in Pennsylvania, with the Malverns and the Haverfords, and those guys are really reluctant to join. And again, it's up to everyone how they want to do it. It's for us at this point in time this year. We were really concerned, about finding games, and we really want to be careful when we throw the word national around. Like, we are not IMG, we are not St. Francis, we are not those guys. I really have always people assume that's what we are. We're not. We're not that. We're going to be good. We work really hard. We're probably the best at what we do in our world. But we were lucky enough to find some schools that, wanted to go out and play, have a good game. So that's why we scheduled the Mount Carmels in Chicago. There's a team in Georgia called Rayboon Gap, which is also a prep school. Both of those guys are top 50 or top 70 programs in the country. And then we had a relationship with St. Francis in Baltimore. We used to play their varsity team. They have a national team and a varsity team. This year we'll be playing their national team, which I know everybody tries to avoid playing when they can, but we're going to throw our guys out there and just be like, hey, let's, this is where we want to be. Let's see how we match up. Let's see how we can get better. Let's see how we go. And because of that, we can't really rely on individual talent. We got to, as a coaching staff, we have to develop all these great athletes into a real team. And we've been doing a really good job of that with our older guys, and our new faces that have come in have really bought into what we sell. So we're excited. We've never gotten on a plane before here at the Hun School. We're going to get on it this year. And Mount Carmel is one of the most historically, traditionally one of the best programs in the state of Illinois. They have amazing seasons year in and year out. They do a good job in the city of Chicago. They win state championship after state championship. So we're going to go out there and see how we stack up, and we're excited about the challenge.
What is that challenge like as far as managing the roster, right? Because you do get some kids that come in from other places, and obviously a post grad. I think you only take. I don't know what the rule is exactly, but you can explain that maybe a little bit too. But what is that like? Like integrating new players into the roster, managing expectations. Explain that a little bit.
I think whenever you meet a new player, you spend some time with them, or a prospective player, and you really get to know them, get to know their parents, get to know their background a little bit, because we've met kids here who have come in and expressed interest in attending Hun, and we kind of just didn't get a good vibe from them, and we just didn't want that. We didn't want to risk what we have, what we've built, and what we pass on year to year. So we've had a great run of great kids, kids that have spent a lot of time here, 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is. So when we do have the opportunity to bring in new kids, the first thing is hey, are they going to blend with what we have? And do they fill a spot of need for us? We don't want to bring in stack kids on top of each other. We don't want to, stack kids left and right. Last year we had the luxury of bringing in Miles O'Neill, who's now at Texas A&M. But we made it a point to make sure that Jack Moran, our quarterback that had been here, got plenty of reps, and he was active in every game. And both kids, we were able to accomplish that goal with both kids. Miles went out, threw for 2,000 yards. and accomplished his dream of becoming a Power 4 quarterback. And now he's at Texas A&M competing for the job. And Jack, in the same season, went out and threw for about 1,100 yards and was able to garner maybe, I guess, at the end of the day, it was 10 or 11 scholarship offers. He's committed to UNC Charlotte. And a lot of people don't have, two scholarship-worthy quarterbacks on the same team, let alone make it work. I thought we did a great job of that, and that's how we do it on offense. We bring in these kids and we package things up. We run about 12 different formations. We put the kids in, we spread the kids out throughout the formation so they all have active roles and they can do different things. And we make it a point to get them touches. We have the conversation, hey, if we hand the ball off to you, you better run hard. We don't know how many touches you're going to get. If we throw the ball to you, please catch it because, we can't target you 15 times a game because we do have to spread it out. And when you have a lot of playmakers like that, they have to buy into that too. And I think colleges have done a great job of that when they understand recruiting. When you're recruiting a kid at Hunt, if you're recruiting a wide receiver, you know what? He might not have 40 catches. He might only have 20. And that's because there's 3 other kids with 20 or 5 other kids with 20. And, but it's with our running backs, it's, hey, yards per carry, yards after contact, what do you look like? What's your film look like? Do you have, how many runs of over 40 plus yards do you have? And with the wide receivers, same thing. Like, are you catching the ball? We try to vary the route tree so we can build that film catalog for them throughout the year. So that takes a little extra part on our part where we have to build that and manage the game, all at the same time. But we've gotten pretty good at it, and that's, we just take it like, if there was a game where somebody didn't touch the ball enough in one game, we're going to make it a point to make sure they get touches early and often in the next game, just to help build that catalog so we can still get their recruiting underway.
Right. And I'm sure that's an issue. I mean, look, that's an issue on most teams, right? Is how many touches this guy get? How many touches did that guy get? And now you have players coming in that are expecting to, get those certain amount of touches, or they need those touches. That's why they're trying to get that film, but I think it's a phenomenal way to look at it. And even for a player, like, you got to know, you have to make the most of your opportunities. The other thing I think is it's that itself creates a college-like environment. Right? Because, one of the biggest things that Dave and I see when guys go to that next level is the adjustment of now going from the man in high school, the best player on your team, to a team where everybody was the best player, right?
Yeah.
Hun creates that already and bridges that gap that they're competing against. Their backup, quote unquote, is a Power 4 guy, right? So it creates that mentality of, hey, practice hard, right, to get to where you want to be. But practice itself sometimes is probably harder than games.
Yeah, I think we see it a lot in the weight room where guys come in and they were the strongest guy in their room, and now they come in here and they're like, whoa, there's some guys.
Yeah, like, oh boy, I'm just another one of the guys.
So we see that a lot. And again, that just and sometimes that's exactly what guys need, right? Sometimes guys need, like, hey, some people don't work great being that guy at the top, right? They always want someone to chase. And at some places they might not have anybody to chase, but here there seems to be always someone to chase, someone that's faster, someone that's stronger. And then if you do become that strongest kid, you want to make sure you stay there. So you work just as hard. So, you're right. It is like, my running back room is exceptional. I really like all my running backs. We can't run the ball 80 times a game, no matter how bad I want to.
You got 4 wide receivers that need touches too.
They all need touches. I love my tight ends. I love the H-backs that we have. So, we got to do it. And the proof's in the pudding, right? So I think we've just done a great job of managing that over the past 5 or 6 years, where we started to have these really skilled, started to have more than 1, more than 2, more than 3. And now all of a sudden the room's filled with really skilled guys. And that's why we're able to put out 10 or 11 Division I guys every year the past couple of years here.
Absolutely.
One of the things I'm really curious about, because I think quite a few of your players have done this either with post-grad or within high school with a reclassification. and the benefits of it in recruiting. Like we always have this debate, like, is it beneficial? Is it not beneficial? Right. In recruiting. And like, and obviously it always depends, right. On certain kids and their situations. But what have you seen some of the benefits of it and the things that it's done for the players that you've had, and have you had it on the flip side too, where players have done really well that have gone, straight through that were in their regular group? What
Yeah,
have you seen?
I'll be very honest with you. So I've had since I've been here in these 12 years, I'm going to have over 110 kids go play college football. Of those 110 kids, only 2 haven't reclassified in one way, shape, or another.
Interesting.
There's a lot of
that's
very interesting. Very interesting.
There's a lot, right? Number one, some kids are very young, right? Some kids whether they start kindergarten early, you go as far back as that. You always hear the parents like, oh, I should have held them back. Oh, he's a year ahead. And then all of a sudden they get to high school and they don't have armpit hair yet. And it's just like, oh man, I wish we held them back a year,
Right.
And then the other thing is, like, sometimes kids get hurt, stuff like that. Those are the no-brainer ones. If you have a kid that's a 16-year-old senior, that's a problem, right?
Right. Right. In the football world, absolutely, right?
Absolutely.
Because, where, puberty and that, that just next, like physically, it matters a lot more in football than it does in other sports, I feel, right? Like, look, we get it. Like, puberty, when you hit it, it matters. But football, physically, when you get there, absolutely 100% matters. I mean, an 18-year-old kid against, a 16-year-old freshman or sophomore makes a really big difference in terms of, just overall football play.
Right. For sure. I think the other thing is too, I've sat in rooms with college coaches and watched film with college coaches when I was at West Windsor, right? And we would watch film and I've sent some when I was at West Windsor, we had some kids go to great places. We had the player of the year, JB Fitzgerald. He went to the University of Michigan, was a 2-year starter at linebacker. We had all these kids go Division I there as well, but we would always sit down and you'd hear the coaches say like, oh man, if this kid was, for example, if this kid was a 26, he'd be a no-brainer. If this kid was, that happens a lot, and I think for us, like, we see kids, a perfect example would be the kid, Ryan Vandermark. All right. Ryan Vandermark was very early in my year. He came to us from Wayne Valley High School. He was 6'7", 235 pounds when we met him. I immediately thought he was going to tell me, hey, what are you? And he's like, I thought he was going to say tight end. I'm tight end, defensive end. He came in. He's like, I'm offensive tackle. I'm an offensive tackle. I'm like, okay. Came to us and we loved it. Got a whole bunch of offers, 17 FCS offers. The day before the signing date, he ends up going to UConn. By the time he left Hunt, he was 255 pounds. This kid was a 4-year starter at UConn at left tackle. He got up to 308 pounds. He is now on the 53-man roster at the Buffalo Bills. And he was one of the skinniest humans I've ever seen. We called him the telephone pole when he was here. Yeah. Spent the time here. But that extra year, in a way changed that kid's life, literally. And there's other kids too. There's kids and parents that know their kids are behind football wise. Like, hey, my kid's not ready football. He's not developed and he doesn't have the football IQ. He doesn't have this. I mean, for us, the more time a kid spends with us in our program, that just gives us the more time that we can have like that Hunt effect on them, where we can help them manage the recruiting process. And even when I started 12 years ago, I mean, it still was like, hey, let's come in the wintertime and let's recruit your seniors that had great senior seasons. Now it's like, hey, talk to me about your freshmen and sophomores, so like,
it's really kind of like shifted to, now we really look at what we can develop rather than what's almost already been developed, right? They kind of look at that of like, hey, what can we make of these guys, rather than like, all right, they're kind of there, we know what we're getting, more of like a comfort, I guess, like kind of like, okay, but it's definitely shifted.
It's all shifting, and that's one thing. Obviously, we stay on top of it. Like, even with the roster limits that are going to come here, like that's going to spark a new shift as well. And the way kids look at where they're going to go and what is
Totally
their top
different.
level. And the biggest change I think I've seen is the Division III schools are getting better kids than they've ever gotten before because of that trickle
Absolutely.
down effect. Just because between the portal, the roster limits, like all these things, and we've had kids go Division III, go in the portal, and go up to a
Right.
scholarship level, right? And
Right.
it's like, so it is a moving target, and that's why we really just want to guide our kids through the process to make sure they're making the best decision for themselves.
That's a great point, and I wonder also if some of it with kids reclassing is emotional level too, right? So they may be starting to
Yeah.
they may be, because they've always been younger. They may be really good athletes, but have emotionally been kind of the man
They're just not
because they've been
mature enough.
younger, and now they have the opportunity to feel what it's like to be at the front of the age group portion of it, which is it's a different experience. Like
Right.
I mean, I was lucky enough to be born earlier in the year to have experienced it, right? But there are a lot of kids that are playing catch up from that standpoint, and sometimes it doesn't have to do with their athletic, physical, size, but their emotional. Let's give them a year so their mind catches up with their body, right? Too, so they can be ready to go to college, and their play will become better because of it. I think that also is a definitely an issue with a lot of reclass kids. So obviously puberty is obviously number one, but you
Right.
also have the emotional issue of being younger.
Yeah.
I've always been really good, but like I've been the younger guy,
Yeah.
So
I
now
mean,
it's
you do get that a lot. You get a lot of self-aware parents who know their kids, and they're just like, "Listen, I know my son; he's not ready to go to college, right?
Right.
And
Like
if I
there's
send him
no way I
there,
could put him on a campus.
yeah, if I send him there, he's going to end up back with me, or and please don't and I say this to our kids all the time, like 4-star kids doesn't mean you're emotionally ready, doesn't mean
Right.
you have your mind around your academic future, what you want to be.
The
A
off the
lot of
field
times,
stuff, right?
yeah,
The
a
off
lot
the
of times
field.
yeah, a lot of times people misconstrue that, right? Like, oh, he's a 5-star, he's a can't miss. Well, he might be a little immature, right? And he might need to get reeled in a little bit and things like that. But I think our kids, another reason too is the Ivy League, obviously, a school like ourselves, like we are a feeding ground for those
Oh,
schools. And a lot of times these Ivy League schools will come across kids and they'll be like, oh, you just missed band 2, band 3, the academic band. Hey, if you can get 20 more points on your SAT, because that extra year allows them they can still take the SAT, ACT, and that would still count. So, we get that a lot too. Like we had that last year with one of our guys, AJ Schwartz. He just needed to get like 30 more points on his SAT, and he got it, and now he's at Prince.
hell of a kid. Unfortunate situation. And there's what you're talking about. Like he's a senior, he's a stud, gets hurt in whatever game, and now reclasses, gets to kind of do that whole thing, right? Different position, right? Didn't he come? He was a quarterback, I believe. Came to you,
Yeah,
became like a DB,
yeah,
and now look at him. Like that literally changed his life. Whereas if he would have just finished his senior year and tried to go force something, he wouldn't have been at the level that he was at.
correct. I mean, I remember when he came in and we watched this film. I'm like, well, what did you play? And he's like, I
Yeah,
played
yeah.
quarterback.
He
And I
was
was
a
like,
stud.
I was like, well, AJ, I mean, I hear you when you say you played quarterback, but it took me 4 minutes and 11 seconds to see your first pass,
Yeah,
So
that's
the
what I'm
highlight
saying.
tape. So, but yeah, like you said, we moved him to corner and we moved him to wide receiver, and he's at
Yep.
Princeton. He's going to play DB, but long, rangy athlete, twitched up, great hands, huge football IQ, great football
Absolutely.
IQ. Just had to get him in front of the right people.
Yep.
And the campus you have there, I've been on. It's unbelievable. I mean, it looks like a college. It is a college campus, even though it's a high school. It's an unbelievable place, and it's obviously very near where Princeton University is, and you kind of have that pocket presence with respect and relationship to the Ivy Leagues, which I think is really amazing. Talk about the recruiting, because you touched on it. Obviously, the Ivy League is a big part of it. the Division 1, obviously, because you had a lot of kids that have gone Division 1. Talk about like how recruiting works with you guys and what is like, I mean, it just continues to radically change. So I'm curious how you continue to stay ahead of the curve and handle all the changes every single year.
Yeah, it is, and you really have to like feed off, like you can feed the coaches. I think number one, like, I think one of the biggest changes is like all these programs now, like when I first started, you had position coaches watching kids, you had position coaches evaluating kids, you had area coaches, all that stuff. Now these programs all have these people in back rooms that are handing lists to coaches and being like, this is your guy, go look at him. Like you have all these people that are generating information and watching the film. And I'm sure coaches still have an input, but more than ever, it feels like there's outside people in the programs making decisions on kids. Now, listen, I'm not saying like head coaches aren't doing that or anything like that, but it's just different. Like these recruiting departments and these scouting departments are different. They're huge. They're big. I think Twitter has changed everything from since I started here to now. Kids have access to coaches directly. And
middleman is gone.
The middleman is gone. Like we have kids here that'll get offers and they'll post it, and then the coach will call me like 2 days later. Hey, I
just want to let you know.
Yeah, we offered him. I'm like, I saw it. I was, and that's okay, because we want our kids to embrace that journey as well and get involved in it. But I think our thing is we do a great job of having face-to-face meetings. We do breakfast at Hunt, it's called. So during the open recruiting period, I'm not a teacher here at the Hunt. I teach at a public school, but I'm here every morning before breakfast, and I'm here every day after school. So I'm here in the morning and the afternoon. So what we do is we just make all the college coaches, when they're on the road, they start their morning here. They have breakfast. During the contact period, they can eat with the kids. They can talk with the kids. We can watch film together. During the non-contact period, the kids eat over in one end of the cafeteria and I have them at the table. It's real easy for me to show them. They can eyeball, they can see. No contact, obviously, but, I'm having face-to-face interactions with coaches. We'll have days where we have 12, 13, 14, 15 coaches there. Right. The difference between now and then, it's like, hey, show me your 27s. Show them who do you got in the 28 class? Anybody there? Let's get them on the list. Let's get them evaluated. Let's send them back to school. Let's send their film back to school. Have the right people watch it. The thing we do in the springtime is we do during that live evaluation period then is we kind of but we kind of don't do the breakfast anymore. And what we do is we open up, we'll do 3 workouts in the evening and we open it up to college coaches to come. So it's like the spandex Olympics, right? We're running around, jumping over bags and doing all that stuff. The quarterbacks get to go throw. We don't do one-on-ones. We don't do any of that stuff, but the coaches come right down on the field. They film the kids. They time the kids. Last year, on the first day we did it, we had 45 colleges come watch. And on the second day, it
was unbelievable. It looked like a pro day.
It was like a pro day. And we've gotten really good at that. And I think like what stinks about that is the NCAA, again, changed the rule on us and made it a one visit only in the spring.
Yep.
So like we used to be able to do it like, hey, if they came one week and they thought they liked somebody, then they would send the position coach back the next week to watch him in person. So, but now like instead of like one coach, from Rutgers, we had 4 coaches from Rutgers watching different kids. And, but we get really good attendance. And I would tell you almost every Power 4 school was represented there.
Yeah, I think it's really unique how that has changed.
Awesome.
That pro day thing is really a phenomenal asset that you guys have for the kids. It is. I've seen other schools, especially like parochial schools, obviously try to do similar type things, and it's been a hugely beneficial. I think that if anybody has kids that could be going to college, they should be doing it, even public schools.
Right.
I think the way that you do it is really phenomenal because you get so many schools to come and watch. It's interesting when you talk about how the coaches are getting handed lists. Like you see how these departments are being, especially at the Power 4 conferences, they're being handed those lists because they have like a general manager, player personnel department, very similar to like the NFL. Is that something that you've had felt like you've had to start to kind of interact with that group as well, or you kind of navigate that
Well,
process?
I was just going to reference that,
curious.
Dave, because you just saw the guy that was responsible for putting together, the roster at Michigan, right? Then he makes the move and goes with Barber to Washington. He puts together that one, and now he's at Alabama with him. He just signed. I posted yesterday. He just signed like a new deal. He got a raise, $850,000 to be the college GM. Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, you like, I make it a point to find out who that person is on the staff, because that's, a lot of the times those are the people that we're going to be talking to. And I think like another aspect for me is like, I get a lot of phone calls during the year, like, hey, is so-and-so happy at this place, right? Our kids that are still at places, because, with that portal, it's crazy. We went through it with Kevin Wigginton this year. He was at Michigan State, and we were leaning on each other a lot to help him through that process when he entered the portal. And that's another misconception that I think a lot of kids have. It's like, hey, I'm going in the portal. And it's like, well, hey, you don't have anybody that's going to take you.
Right.
This is a great idea.
Smart. Grass ain't always greener,
Right. And so a lot of kids go in there and then they're just left there,
Literally. Like there's over 1,000 kids still sitting in the portal that had left a full scholarship at some point and are now just sitting there, like kind of like when you hit the reload button on a website, right? It's just kind of, and they're just waiting. And it's, hey, maybe that situation wasn't so bad,
Right.
It's a tough place to be, to make that leap. You need to kind of really understand everything that could happen,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say the coach's name, but like I've been in a room where I've heard a coach tell one of our kids, like, hey, like I'm at this place right now. I do not want to be here. I want to be coaching at this place. And when I go, you're coming with me. And I'm just like, I'm like, whoa, but these are the conversations that people are having, so like, you want to be careful, like, because for us, like, education's number one. Like, hey, where can you get that degree? Where can you go? Like, is this the next 4 for 40? All that stuff. But at the same time, too, it's like for you got to watch, these kids want to protect themselves. And for some kids, like getting on the field and playing is a big, should be a big part of that conversation for them, because if you do go to some place and you're not playing, like what happens year 3 or year 4 if this coach decides they don't want you there anymore, or this or that, especially when they're moving to these roster limits where that's where those GMs are going to come in, and there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking where you're going to see a lot more transactional stuff where it's not like, hey, we're taking a flyer on this kid and we're going to try to develop them. It's like, nope, let's go see who's in the portal. Let's go see who we can scrounge up. Let's see who's out there. So, you really want the kids to be aware and be able to protect themselves through this process, because it's bonkers for them where, like, hey, the real high level kids, they can really maximize a lot of this and put some money in their pocket and get some NIL stuff going and all that stuff. But at the same time, it could all go away like that, and easily. You want to make sure you got that degree in hand so you can get something and do something with your life, because not all of us are going to be playing at that third level, at that professional level.
Like, use the game to get you to a place that maybe you might not have gotten, but because football can help you, maybe that kind of sliding scale, I always like to call it, right, where all right, maybe it's your grades aren't exactly where they need to be, but you can take football will kind of balance it out, right, or the other way. It's just use that stuff and think beyond just these 4 years of college football, because like you said, things happen, man. Unfortunately, like, injuries are part of it. Life happens. Did you think any of these guys, like, when COVID hit, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, like, how do we handle this, right? And that's kind of that was a whole, I can't even, whatever, that's another whole nother podcast in itself.
When I look at this, like, my big question is with the NCAA, I'm like, all right, number one, you got a lot of programs at that Power 4 level that embrace the walk-on opportunity, right? Like, you look at Texas A&M, Wisconsin, Nebraska, like Iowa.
What they live on.
They live on those walk-ons, and now you're telling them they can't have any, right? So, number one, what are you doing with the walk-ons that are on your team right now? Like, where are they going?
Great question.
Are you giving them scholarships?
Are you
are you
using
going to
that
go try and
NIL
get somebody?
collective to basically pay for their? So are they really a
Well,
walk-on, right? Or is it? And that was one of the
well, here's
conversations
the
we
thing
had
though.
with
Like
the.
I heard that some of the like so you get I don't know Ohio State they're gonna have 105 scholarships, right? And that's gonna be their roster. It's gonna be 105 scholarships. But a place like UConn, for example, they're trying to figure out if they're going to keep it 85 and then those other 20 are how are they going to do the other 20? Are they going to utilize, do they have the money to utilize the other 20? And are those going to be walk-ons? And that obviously is going to if the schools aren't able to afford the jump to the next 20, obviously almost all the power four are going to, right?
Right.
But then you're going to get that group in the, I guess, what is it now? Like a group of six? I don't know, a group of five.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
whoever those other guys
yeah,
are.
whoever the other teams are, they're not all of them are going to have the budget because
Right.
it's not just football. Obviously, there's other sports that they've added in the roster increases. They added other sports, right? So, baseball gets more potentially, soccer, each one gets more. So, and they have to mirror it obviously on the female side, right? So you go to 105 on football. You have to you add 20 on football. You got to add 20 somewhere on the female side as well.
Right.
Yep.
So you're really adding 40 scholarship dollars, right, to university. So it's really interesting of what's going to happen there because I think you're right. Like, first of all, I think at the Power Four, some of those walk-ons just might be like out of luck. And then do they go to some of these others? I think the other thing I thought your statement is 100% correct on is like D3 is going to get a lot better players because they're also going to be squeezed on rosters. So they're going to get a lot of these guys that were at a higher level that fall through. It's really it's such an interesting question. And then the NIL thing I think that you brought up, which is really good too. Like you have some of your guys that are getting some NIL money. I saw like Gundy.
Yep.
Mike Gundy on one hand said, he told his players not to ask him for any more money, right? Like not to keep coming to him for more money.
Right.
And then what is basically the solution a day or two later is they basically have a barcode on the back of their helmet where people can support the players directly.
Right.
So he doesn't have to get people asking him for money if his branding is good enough, or he's that good enough a player. He's going to get the initial support from people. So that also creates a whole, I don't know, wild scenario. Now I think that what's really cool is that the Hun school is positioned in a certain way. The players you're going to get are, I think, kids that have a concern for academics. Obviously, they're great players, but they're going to have a concern for academics. That figures into the equation, which I think makes you unique. But I look at some of the parochials in New Jersey, and you got because some of these kids at 10, 11 years old or 12 years old are branding themselves, putting out like I saw one the other day put out like 4 schools that were his top 4, and
in like 6th grade.
There's or 7th, I think it was 7th grade, but there's nothing wrong with it. But it's a thing where it becomes more. The more the NCAA changes all this stuff, the more I think the parents feel the squeeze at the younger levels, right? That's why they're asking you for 2028, 2027s, and that's why 12 and 13-year-olds feel like they have to like put out what their top 4 is part of a whole branding thing. We used to laugh at the baby Gronk thing, like that it was like, but now it's like there's like
it's like reality
Gronks out there, It's
plus, and I think Dave, like, we always talk about it too. Like, I think people now are just literally trying to create a buzz, right? Or how many clicks can I get just to bring, like, in their eyes, any attention is good. Any attention is good attention, right? Like, doesn't good, bad, indifferent. Like, I just personally, I feel like you're setting your child up for failure. You're creating these unrealistic expectations, like a baby Gronk type of situation where now all of a sudden people see this, that kid gets on the field. If he doesn't now back up what mommy or daddy has been posting and putting out there, like now it's like a feeding frenzy. You're almost putting a target on that kid's back. in a certain type of way when you do it from such a young age, where they can't, like, they just don't, it doesn't register to them. They don't even realize like mom or dad is doing it, or whatever that is creating. And it's just that the amount of pressure at such a young age, when really you should just be focusing on learning the fundamentals of the game and improving year by year, and allowing your body to do what it's naturally going to do and mature, and you know, get to that puberty level where now, okay, now I can really go and play football.
Right. I'll tell you this, like, you guys are hitting it all. And the one thing, my big concern is, like, I want to do two things here. Number one, I want to prepare them to go on to the next level. I want to prepare them to be able to handle that pressure. Right. You know, that's why, like, when we're on the field and we're practicing, like, I'm on them. Right. You make a bad mistake, I'm going to let you know about it. You know, we're going to correct it. We're going to watch film about it. Probably going to let you know about it again. And then we're going to correct it again. But, like, it's the time in between. It's the meetings. It's the weight room. It's just hanging out with the guys.
Absolutely.
And when you're going out there, it's like, I want those guys, I want to make sure they're still having fun, because at the end of the day, it's still high school football, right? Yes. And when we let high school football and listen, I feel a lot of pressure because kids come here and they're like, I want to go to college and I want to make them do that.
Right. That's why they're going to you, right? Like, for the most part, like, they're choosing to come to you because, coach, you've created a culture and an environment where if I go to Hun, I'm getting a scholarship. I'm going to college, right? Like, not only is that, you know, that expectation, right, creates a lot of, you know, like, here it is. This is what we're doing for you to now kind of deliver, right? And you know, and I'm sure it's, well, I came here not to, like, you know, you may have guys with 10 scholarships and they're still unhappy because, hey, coach, I came here to get this, this, and this, and now I'm only getting this, this, and this. And it's like, buddy, you're still part of the 7% that, like, in this, like, world that you're already above, like, ahead. Yet, you know, hey, I still want more.
Right. And at the same time, like, I want to take on a lot of that pressure for them.
Correct.
But I also want to let them know, I have to remind them, like, hey, this is, like, when you're not working hard, like, why are you here? Right. We're all here for a reason. And at the same time, like, oh yeah, let's have fun. Right.
And so like, where is that happy medium? Because,
well, I think a lot of my guys think I'm 100% bipolar, because I can go from, like, hot to cold. You know, I'm all over
0 to 60, baby. 0 to 60.
Yeah. Any given day. But, like, when we watch film and it's just, like, having fun, cracking jokes with the kids. And again, one of the best things, like, listen, if I was a kid and I went to the Hun school, like, I remember when I was at Hunter Central, I had a science class. You know, I was in biology. There were 38 kids in the bio class. It was one of the largest public schools in the country, in the state of New Jersey. Right. You come here, you look at a biology class and there's 8 kids in there. Like, you're going to pay attention. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't really have much of a choice, bud. Like, you know,
you got no choice.
Like, all eyes are always going to be on you, dude. You're not getting away with much with all the 8 dudes in a class.
Right. So when we do that, like, we associate that with the field. Like, hey, I only have 8 offensive linemen, right, at that varsity level right now. I only have 8. So we get to spend a lot of time with all 8 every day, you know, and getting them ready. And so you get a lot of that one-on-one, you know, with those kids, you know, and that's important, you know. And
absolutely.
And the fact that, like, we can come in and, like, we can talk football. I can talk football with them. We can talk scheme and identifying coverage and all that stuff. And then Tony's in the room with us, and, you know, to have somebody like that behind them and just keep on working, you know, I just think it's a real great opportunity to become a better student and football player.
Right. Yeah, the environment. I mean, you step foot on the campus there, and you realize that, not, you know, even though you're an athlete, there's a lot of kids that are here that are brilliant students, right, with aspirations of maybe being rocket scientists. You know what I mean? So you're in a classroom. I'm assuming they're in a classroom alongside these guys, and they're learning from them as well as vice versa. So
yeah, great kids. We got kids from 36 states and 28 countries, and they get to meet kids from all over the world and all over the country. They make these lifelong friends, and they go places with them even when school's over. It's great. It's great. I got all these different text chains on my phone with kids that have graduated in classes together, and we all still keep in touch. And it's great to see them go off and do great things. And even with that, like of those kids I've sent to college, we sent over 20 to go to Ivy League schools right now. So we got probably got one more. We got those two knuckleheads going to Stanford this year. So, these guys really take academics serious, and that's part of it.
No, that's definitely part of it. I think also you probably will continue to get. I think you guys are really uniquely positioned in the sense that those kids who might have been posting all that stuff or immature, they're coming back a couple of years down the line and saying, "Hey, I need to reclass. I was good, but I need we need to get a little more mature and get them right in different capacities." It's interesting. So where do you see the program going? So you guys come so far in those 12 years, right? I mean, if you were to look at the program 12 years ago and you look at the program now, like it's it was always a known, like Hun School was known, but where you took it from and the number of players, it's like a destination spot. So
Definitely.
talk about where you kind of see the future for Hun football program.
Well, even when I got here, like Hun always had that, they always had that reputation of sending great kids out. They had Myron Roll and so many other kids before that.
Great story.
Tyler Stockton and all these good kids that were like blue chip prospects and great players. So they've always been doing it. So like, that part of that was like wanting to come here and carry on that legacy and keep it going. I think the trick to this place is you can't really look too far into the future because like at the drop of a hat, like this it truly is a year-to-year thing. And you got to find the right kids and the right families. I think we've done a great job earning that reputation, but like, we're 1 year away, unlike the Bergens and the Boscos who bring in 35 freshmen or 40 freshmen a year, probably more than that. We have 4 freshman football players on our team this year. So it is a really hard thing to keep putting the roster together with the right kids year after year after year. And we just take it day by day, So as far as the future, we just want to keep doing what we're doing. We want to see. We'd love to get involved with like-minded schools up in the New England. We'd like to get back in with those prep schools like we were before, because that's where we feel we belong. We'd love for Lawrenceville and Pennington to jump back in, and then if we could get that conference rolling and get those better, because part of it is like, hey, like maybe Petty gets it rolling again, and maybe Pennington gets it rolling again, and Lawrenceville gets it rolling. Now you have a premier conference, right?
Right. Now you can like do a little bit more with it, and then you also know like you don't have to go crazy because hey, I have a guaranteed 6-game schedule. Now I can go and schedule, because ultimately tape is what matters, right? And look, you can schedule teams coming from Canada and whatnot, but like now we're talking about competition level and play. Like, yeah, that looks great on paper. Like, hey, we're really nice guys and we're playing Canada doing this. But when it comes to football, like, no offense, what are we talking? Yeah,
some of those Canadian teams are pretty good. Some of them are not, though.
Right.
So you got to watch what you get. I mean, but you're right. I mean, if we could get like a guaranteed 6-game competitive schedule and then go out and schedule 3 or 4, 3 or 4 a year and just make it that way. But like, unfortunately, some coaches look for the path of least resistance, or some coaches like are more concerned, like, concerned about matchups and stuff like that. Managing games needs to be important, stuff like that. But I mean, since I've been here, like if you look at some of the teams I played against John Mechie, right? John Mechie was on the other side of the field 1 year. We played against David Ajabo and Jason and Owe, right? And we played against what's his face for the Redskins, the wide receiver. I forget his name. He was really good. He went to Penn State, that guy. He was awesome. Like, last year when we played Avon Old Farms, their quarterback was going to Georgia, and they had Wake Forest. There's teams out there that have these blue chip prospects just like I do. I do think like people sometimes we have a reputation of being a real blue collar mentality. Hey, we're going to run downhill and come off the ball and smack you in the face a little bit. And we do play a physical style of play, and I do think like up there in New England,
people shy away from that a little bit.
Yeah, everybody wants to spread the ball out, and they're not used to playing, teams with 2 tight ends or 1 tight end, and it's just like, or inline tight ends, and it's all like we just have to stop mid zone and outside zone. But we're gonna run ISO and power at you, and we're gonna get in your face and do it. And 4 yards is acceptable for us, and we're okay, And sometimes I think teams get a little weary about that.
Definitely.
But at the end of the day, it's like you said, like if we can, this year is this year. We got Haverford School in a scrimmage tomorrow, and then we're off to go see Mount Carmel, which our kids are super excited about. And we know they're going to smack us in the face. They're really good, and we got to see how we're going to respond.
That should be awesome. Well, Coach, it's been fantastic having you on. Really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
We both really, truly admire the program you've built, and the players that you had, and they're great kids. The ones that we know.
That's what I was just going to say. They are great kids on and off the field.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. I think it was extremely informative to a lot of people that had a lot of like assumptions about what Hun is, or hey, they're just a bunch of post-grad 19-year-old kids playing against high school guys. Like people just need to understand and respect what it is to actually take in these guys, that small number, and understand what goes into coaching these guys that are coming to you with very specific expectations of why I'm coming here. Right?
We actually have another misconception. We actually have 0 19-year-old guys. So
that's like people, like that's just what people think. Like we know it, but now like I find myself like defending it half the time to be like, hey man, it's just an option. Like that's not true. Like you guys don't understand. Like that's not it.
Not true. Yeah, it's not true. The big thing is we always want to make sure we're able to play we're allowed to play anybody in the state of New Jersey. There's certain states where the rules get a little fishy, but in New Jersey, as long as you don't have anybody on your team that turned 19 before September 1st, you can play. And that's why we keep that rule here for us, so we can play anybody in New Jersey at any time. It's just getting someone to agree to play us. That's the trick. So
that's it, bud.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame them. Like we're a Group 1 school giving Group 1 PowerPoints. Like we're an anomaly. It's they have 40 guys on their roster, but like there's some good ones there. We're not a typical Group 1 school. So I totally get it. And it's on us to negotiate it and navigate it. But hey, thanks for having me on. This was wonderful.
It was great having you,
Appreciate it, man. Good luck with everything. Have a great season.
See ya.
All right. Bye. That was great. That was really interesting, and really the recruiting process wise, and the players that they have, and
it's a mini college, man. Like that the way it's run, the way it's structured, and all that stuff. And like you said, with those expectations of guys going there, like I mean, look, the proof is in it, right? In the last couple of years, I mean, how many Division I just players in general? We're not even specifically getting into the positions of the guys that have really gone to next level places and have been like factors. Like these guys are playing early, right? And because they're coming from that structure program, like it's a college, so it's not so much of a jump, right? It was extremely informative. I mean, he's got his hands full, I'll tell you that. How do you get all those guys touches, man? How do you get all those guys touches? Like, I just don't know how you do it. Like, I really don't. Like, there's only so many plays in a freaking game, dude.
You gotta, there's only so many plays in the game, and especially if you get in it actually gets harder if you get in a situation where you're blowing somebody out, because
which is why I think the concern to play quality opponents matters, right? Because also, like, you want to condition these guys for true games. You don't want these guys basically going out there like, oh, this is a scrimmage, it's gonna be over in the first quarter, right? Like, are they really gonna do what they need to be what needs to be done to be successful when they go to a Power 4? Like I said, their practices are probably unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, probably. Although the roster size is not that huge, so
Group 1. He's got Group 1.
Be a little bit careful from there. But great episode. We'll get
good stuff.
Get up off on this, and we'll see you again on Friday when we have in Tyler Siskey, right?
Yes, sir. Big Tyler Siskey, man. I love his podcast. He loved it. From the recruiting stories to just the overall, like, where he has been in terms of the level of coaching. He's, who he's coached with, right? So he's coached under Coach Saban, and he's been at Auburn. He's been at some big SEC
Ole
programs.
Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss,
Miss,
like, I
okay.
mean, Arkansas State, like all these big ones. So it'll be really good to talk to him, informative. But like I
Absolutely.
said, I think that episode we just had was awesome because, like I
Awesome.
said, the Hun school is just everybody sees it, reads it, but doesn't really understand like what it is because they're not the Bergens or the Boscos or the Joes of the world, right? And those guys don't play them because why would you?
Yeah. It's a different setup. It's an independent school, so there's
Absolutely.
all right. We'll see you on Friday.
Friday.